Well, here we are. Week one of Crescendo is officially passed, and tonight we take a look at 4 hot topics in the community as a whole. We'll take a look at some strategy that we saw in week one, field consistency issues across multiple events, the new blue banners being subpar, in my opinion, and crunch culture within FRC. All of this and more coming up on this episode of FRC Roundup.
This video on fun is brought to you by viewers like you and also in partnership with the following. Discover how Kettering University students engineer their success with Kettering's amazing co-op employment programs where students earn great pay and gain valuable experience. Those accepted into Kettering University can apply for a robotics scholarship providing up to an additional $5,000 a year in tuition assistance. Head on over to kettering.edu/first to learn more and apply. Support Fun's content creators when you sign up for a membership on YouTube Join. You'll get access to special perks like emotes, loyalty badges, and Fun members will even get early access to our scheduled videos and more. 100% of this revenue will go back to our correspondents to help recognize their efforts. Click the join button in any YouTube video to pledge your support.
Welcome to the show. If you have not caught our show previously, FRC Roundup is where we take a look at important topics currently happening in FRC, highlight some discussion points about events that may have happened, strategy, or really anything that correlates with FRC. If you, the Fun community, think that there's a topic that we should discuss on FRC Roundup, please feel free to ping me on the Fun Discord, and I'll be more than happy to take a look at it. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Nick Mathis. I am currently in the 1st in Michigan region, and I'm a mechanical mentor on FRC Team 33, the Killer Bees.
And I'm Connor McBride, mentor for Team 166 Chop Shop and an MC and game announcer in the New England District. Our guest tonight is Kyle Hughes. Kyle's a math teacher in Michigan, the lead mentor on Team 27 Rush, and the 2000 Woody Flowers Championship Award recipient. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for hopping on. So we'll go ahead and jump into our first topic of the night, and it's going to be a meta and strategy review from week one. Breaking down, obviously, Kyle and I were both at the same competition this past weekend at Kettering 1. Connor was game announcing at Granite State over in New England. And there was, a different way in the game that in which it was played. It was interesting to see that there were really 2 specific strategies that kind of emerged from the scenes. I know that at Kettering 1, one of the big things that a lot of teams and alliances started to pick up on was that passing strategy. So essentially one robot kind of running that short cycle and then allowing one other team to play cleanup over in their wing zone. And then we saw Waco as well. So 3005 and Team Appreciate also doing that over in Texas. And then, also reverting to the standard cycling strategy that we saw at, SVR and a couple of the other regionals, just running that standard cycle situation. So I think this provides really 2 unique ways to play the game. I'm curious to see, what happens down the stretch on if one of them is going to overtake the other. Are we going to see, more of a passing strategy once, we really dive into that? I know that's what, at least our alliance over at Kettering, that's what we elected to go with. And then, kind of shifted to a double cycling strategy once our third robot had some issues that we were trying to help them with throughout the tournament. But Connor, over at Granite State, I don't know, I didn't get a chance to watch much where you were at. Did you see any passing over there, or was it mainly just, the standard cycle strategy from that standpoint?
Yeah, so it was mostly a standard cycle strategy. I didn't really see any passing until I saw some videos coming out from you guys. So I thought that was a really awesome strategy and something that I definitely want to think about when my team goes to compete week 3. So Granite State was just a stupidly competitive event. Like going into the season, it was the number 3rd event for mean average in the world. Only 2 other events higher was Western New England and the first championship. So the depth of field at this event was just ridiculous. So like you go to the finals matches and you can see, I think it was the number 1 seed Red Alliance, they're running triple offense because like their second pick was just that good to be able to run. It was just a very simple Quokka's arm. And then, the number 2 seed Blue Alliance you see on screen, 238 was just, they played 2 offense, 1 defense. It ended up working out very well for them. But I don't think they're like the way that I've seen it so far from other events and even in here is I don't think there's a right or wrong answer right now. So it's really cool just to kind of see how everyone's just kind of, playing the game to their advantage.
For sure. Yeah. So Kyle, I guess just a preface question for you now that, we mainly focused on the passing strategy. I know throughout quals, we kind of pivoted both between, running that cycle strategy and then mixing and passing a little bit. What did you think worked well for 27 in general this past weekend. I know a lot of it plays into who your partners are. Do you have partners that can assist with that specific scenario? So just wanted your opinion on what you think of both current ones and where do you think it could possibly lead to in the coming weeks?
Well, I have to be honest that I originally thought about the passing strategy, but then I wasn't clear on the rules on how far you could pass, so I kind of threw it to side. And
Hmm.
then after having some practice with some teams, we realized real quickly that this is a faster way to get those notes down there. What we found also very quickly at Kettering is it's also a very easy way for teams to steal
Hmm.
your notes. So if you're going to do the passing strategy, you got to make sure that you're fast enough to also score them, or make the decision that only so many can be passed before you're assisting with the cleanup. Because, yeah, 5460 came down and stole from us. After
Yep.
Auton, they were down so fast. I was like, where did they come from? I mean, I don't even think our robot had moved yet, and they were already down picking up our notes. So, you just it adds a whole new element of not only passing, but you have to protect them. So if you don't have a robot that can quickly score in the amp so that you can start the amplification, then they're just going to come down and take them from you. So then you've lost, the benefit of passing them down. I know that like circuits and some of the other regionals this past or tournaments this past weekend, they didn't pass. They just drove
Hmm.
really, really fast and did really, really fast cycles, and that's pretty cool too. But again, I mean, if you don't have that super fast robot, the only way to make up that time is to be launching one, going and getting another one, as long as you have someone who can score fast.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that's going to play into it too is just really getting that coordination down.
Mhm.
And like we noticed, throughout the playoffs, it took us a couple matches to get to that point, trying to, find the specific flow and whatnot on trying to get that first robot that is going to be the cleanup guy, giving them something to do for the first 10 seconds, or finding something, whether that's running down the field and grabbing a cycle first, and then
Right.
cleaning up down there and trying to utilize that best or that time available, to the best of their ability. But this brings up an interesting point too that I want to highlight. There was a post on or a thread on Chief Dove that came up that was labeled "Death by Serpentine" or "OP Top Alliances." Sky Leak had posted, in general, reviewing specific ways in which the third robot difference is a big component to this year's game. I think we're going to see again as we come down and go through the consecutive events here. But the post goes on to say, essentially, is it really based in, pure of event wins, but the overall competitive alliances, it feels like that a lot of the times, those 3 and 4 seeds are really going to be heavy teams or heavy alliances because of, the specific components that those robots can be compromised from. I know when I was sitting down with James from 27, right, when we were going through all of it, and we saw that, Juggernauts, Atombots, Hazmat Alliance, that was one of the things that we pinpointed was like, the fact that that specific team at Kettering wanted fell so far to the third robot seed, and they were able to compromise that alliance. And that was one of the things that, we had highlighted. But Connor, I just throwing it to you. Do you see that this game is going to evolve to really be a third robot game, similar to kind of what it was last year? Or do we see that, the top 2 teams or that number 1 alliance are going to be able to carry the weight?
I definitely see it, seeing that third robot be incredibly valuable, especially when we get to like district championships and the first championship. I don't even think that like 50%, that's probably like, the way that this game is set up. And the other 50% is like how teams have just been getting so fast and so
Yeah.
good over the past couple of years. I mean, there's probably going to be some alliances that choose to have that third robot be a defense robot, and they're probably just like a lights out defense robot, knows all the chokeholds and everything. But like that, other than that, like I think that the third robot, if they have offensive capabilities, like watch out. Like,
Right.
is that
You
there
know,
were also like a decent amount of like number 1 seeds that got knocked down to the lower bracket or didn't make it to the finals this week.
Mhm.
and if
Yeah,
I
Kyle,
may,
thoughts? Yeah, go ahead.
when we're looking at the even the scouting data, when we were talking about passing, if a team is passing, they're not scoring, and all of a sudden
Right.
their data is lower. And we got back to the hotel on Friday night, and I'm like, why is our data so low? Like, why are our numbers so low? And it was
Mhm.
because we were feeding robots all day. And so we had to reassess our own scouting data to make sure it was how many times did we have a note and we were, doing something with it, and how many times were we scoring, so that, we knew we weren't just that slow going back and forth scoring 5 in our auton. So that's something else that's going to, people got to pay attention to their data, because their data, traditional data, doesn't include the whole passing game.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, before we go ahead and jump into our next topic, we're going to go ahead and bring Tyler on to introduce our first giveaway for the night.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Our friends at 1720 Fixed Gears had an awesome thing that they've been selling on AndyMark for a really long time, and that is the Bat Hawks. So our friends at 1720 are giving away a pair of these awesome Bat Hawks, and if you're interested in getting these, there's a lot of cool things. You just plug them right in, give you your voltage right away. So make sure you go check these out on AndyMark, by the way. But Fixed, I can't even spell it, PHYXT, that's the keyword for it. Type that in chat. Don't forget, if you are subscribed to our YouTube channel, absolutely free. You get 3 times luck to win, and we will draw for that after our next topic.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyler. Yeah, jumping into our next topic of the night, we're going to talk about field consistency. One of the things that, has popped up on Chief Delphi, things that we saw at Kettering, there is a lot of variation in specific components of the field, specifically the April tags. We noticed, and this could be a lack of, how our setup is at our shop, but we saw a lot of differences between, our field localization at our practice field comparative to where it was in the competition field. And it seems like that's, coming across multiple events as well. We noticed, a member of 6036 put out that the field tolerances at the Wainemeport Regional also had some issues that they noticed. I will say that when we got there on Thursday, I noticed the April tags being mounted on a relatively flimsy piece of polycarbonate on the speaker. And for something that, really has to be flat, and robots slamming into the Align station throughout the weekend, I was a little alarmed by that. It sounds like some of this has been brought up to First HQ and they're aware of it and actively working on solutions. So, I hope that, hopefully before this weekend, something's able to come out that we can increase this. But Connor, I know, again, you were at Granite State. Did you guys see any sort of specific consistency issues on that standpoint related to the April tags or any other alignments?
Yeah, I mean, I saw teams constantly checking dimensions, like height and all relativity, anything regarding April tags with tape measures, like constantly throughout the entire weekend. I mean, watching practice matches on Thursday, which, by the way, we had practice matches on a week 1. That was pretty that was pretty cool. But just regarding that tangent, I'd seen a lot of those teams practicing, like seeing some videos prior to week 1 and seeing some of them competing at week 0, and just seeing like the way that they were cycling and shooting game pieces is like not the same. And I was looking around and asking people, and I was like, do you know what's going on though? Or just like there's some inconsistencies with the field and April tags and stuff, and people are measuring, and that black backing kind of gets bent every once in a while. It's just not a very sturdy backing for such a critical part of the field. So I know they're like Buck's Wrath. If you go back to like the reveal video, you can see them doing shooting on the move. They didn't do that once at Granite State because just they were purposely lining up. They were taking their time to shoot. It still paid off because they got the win, but like robots were, at least in my opinion, were not running to the consistency, that they should have been.
Sure. Yeah, I know, Kyle, I know you're not super involved with the software side of things, but did you hear any sort of things that are feedback from 27 that they were experiencing issues throughout the weekend as well?
We did have some issues that we can't quite explain. We're working on it tonight to see if we can replicate some of the issues here. But something that's always been frustrating to me, and I think that FRC needs to think about it, is especially because things move, maybe we should be able to be allowed to recalibrate during lunch, or maybe on Saturday morning. Those are important things to do, because, like, for instance, this auton that we have showing, I mean, it ran here 100% most of the time. I mean, 100% of the time here, and we get there and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, this is not working. So, it's a field difference, and we know that, but we struggled getting it calibrated there to tune it in the way we wanted it for the first week.
Yeah, and we shared that experience as well. Pivoting a little bit to a different field consistency issue that I want to highlight. Over at the First in Texas Waco District event, they had a pretty substantial delay over Thursday and Friday morning. Actually didn't get to host any practice matches. And Tyler, feel free to correct me. I want to say it was like 3 or 4 o'clock on Friday. They weren't able to start qualification matches.
It was close to a 4-hour delay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it sounded like there was some sort of FMS crash that First was trying to remote into and couldn't, or was having issues with, and then they eventually pivoted to changing all of the teams to it's either a static or a dynamic IP. I can't remember which one exactly it was, but to getting them to be able to connect to the field. Hats off to them. They were able to finish up Saturday night at a reasonable time. So hats off to those specific people and those key stakeholders on getting that event to run. But just wanted to highlight, appreciate all the hard work of the First in Texas people over at the Waco event and getting them to be able to have that event finally. So, but yeah, before we go ahead and jump into topic 3, we'll go ahead and bring Connor on to pivot to that.
Yeah. So moving on to that third topic, we're, we're going to be talking about Blue Banner quality and just awards overall. So back on November 9th, 2023, First released a blog post titled A Potluck of Reminders, just talking about a whole bunch of different things. And they casually mentioned that the vendor for Blue Banners is changing. The prior vendor stopped, they ceased production after 30 something plus years being in business, and they switched over to a new vendor. And we got the first pictures from Alan Gregory in the Spectrum blog build thread this season. And posting those pictures, I'm looking at them and I was like, those don't look great. And I got to see them firsthand at Granite State. And I'm like, wow, these things suck.
Yeah, that's a short way to put it.
But I'll tell you what,
that is the kindest thing that I can say.
I'll tell you what, though, I would have appreciated one, no matter how bad they are. It would have been nice to have one.
I would agree with that statement, Kyle.
So, I understand nobody likes change, and I'm jumping in here on this one. But in 1999, when we won our first banner, it wasn't even this color. It was a light blue color. Once I knew this topic was coming up, we did a little research on our own, and I looked around in my field, and the number of changes over the years is amazing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is probably the 8th change in banners. And I remember every year that the change would occur, we'd be frustrated. I do think they probably should have steamed out the wrinkles. That probably would have been nice, or rolled it up like the old days. But I also understand if the company's no longer there,
right.
What did they do? And maybe they didn't realize it was going to be quite like this. And I understand teams that have a lot of these banners aren't happy about the fact that they've got one that doesn't match. But shame on you. You have a lot of banners.
Right.
What about these teams that get their first one? If that's what you have to complain about, like, come on. So I'm not in the camp. I mean, maybe I won't like one when I get my first new blue banner. But again, I think it's a privilege to get one. I'm glad they didn't just abolish it, because if they said, well, we can't have blue banners anymore, that would have been a bigger problem.
I wholeheartedly agree with that.
1,000%.
Yep. All right. Before we jump into our final topic of the night, we're going to go ahead and bring Tyler back on to draw for that giveaway, hear from our friends at Kettering, and start our next giveaway.
Whole bunch of stuff to do. There we go. Sorry, microphone issue. So once again, keyword was fixed for the giveaway on there. So let's go ahead and draw our winner for that. And that is going to be Sad Punching Bag 2. Interesting screen name, but congratulations to you for winning that on there. And let's start our second giveaway right away. Let's go ahead and do that from our friends at CTR Electronics, and that's for a Phoenix Pro license. So CTR Electronics, awesome company. Go check them out. Your keyword is going to be chicken. They love doing all the chicken puns and all the stuff that goes along with that. So thanks a lot to CTR Electronics for providing that awesome giveaway. Type chicken in chat. Once again, this will be for a 2024 or 2025 license, so you can specify when you do that. By the way, if you do win any giveaways, please go to firstupdatesnow.com/winner to fill out the information for that as well too. I have to remember we just changed that, so we'll keep reminding you as we go through in that process. But you can fill out all your information on there in order to do it. And let's thank our show sponsors today, Kettering University, for their awesome support and continued support of First Updates. Now, I got to go to Kettering one last week, and it's a phenomenal university. Did you know that over 30% of high school graduates who go to Kettering University were in high school robotics? It is so cool. They have so much going on there. A FIRST Robotics Center for you to check out. They have a lot of FRC teams, FTC teams, combat, robotics, esports, and even more. So go ahead and kettering.edu/first. See if Kettering be a great option for you. And accepted candidates can apply to receive a $5,000 a year Kettering scholarship for both FIRST and VEX students as well too. So head on over to kettering.edu/first to learn more.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Tyler. We'll go ahead and jump into our final topic of the night, which Connor is also going to lead us on.
Yeah, so a few days ago on Chief Delphi, there was a user who goes by the name of Some Random Catter, created a very interesting Chief Delphi thread called Crunch Culture within FRC. This piqued my interest because I'm like, I don't know what crunch culture is, surprisingly. I watched the video link that he provided and read through the whole thing. And for crunch culture, really kind of derives from the video game industry. I'm just going to read a quick little excerpt as to like what crunch culture is for those that don't know. So in the video game industry, crunch or crunch culture is compulsory overtime during the development of a game. Crunch is common in the industry and can lead to work weeks of 65 to 80 hours for extended periods of time, often uncompensated beyond the normal working hours. It is often used as a way to cut the costs of game development and labor-intensive endeavor. However, it leads to negative health impacts for game developers and a decrease in the quality of their work, which drives developers out of the industry temporarily or permanently. And reading through this, it kind of made me think about, a little bit how this can be applied in FRC or even just our regular everyday lives with our jobs that might not necessarily be, in the game design industry, or even if you're a student as well. So it really kind of made me think about how I handle myself and how I handle my students on 166.
Mm-hmm.
We always say that, hey, we really endorse putting in extra time outside of the shop because, we don't always meet as much as other teams. So to be able to get work done outside of regular meeting time is very important to the success of the team. However, we don't enforce it. We will never pressure a student to actually do that. And if for some reason we have, and there's a student on my team that is watching this, please let me know, because I would rather correct that than have to say this and feel like an idiot. I'm going to throw this right over to you, Kyle, because, being a teacher, I can imagine that this is probably something that's right up your alley.
Yeah. So I had to find out what crunch culture was as well today. And as I read about it, I thought, yeah, this is definitely going on in the first world. We have and the deadline is the first tournament. So every team that is competitive the week before the tournament, they're putting in ridiculous hours. And then they're getting I know, Nick, you guys were last week. And then they're getting to the tournament and they're burnout, they're exhausted. They have to go through the tournament. And then on Sunday after the tournament, they're dysfunctional. In the old days, people would complain about the 6-week build. And then you had, it was either bag day or ship day. And the best part about that was you couldn't touch your robot in the old days after 6 weeks. And then you had a break. And I'm telling you, as soon as that robot was created, like we had a 24 hours, no one in the shop, everybody regrouped, they did their laundry, got some groceries, and was ready for the next whatever. Then they went to the bag, and very specifically when the bag, you laid out your tools like you were going into brain surgery. You had everything. You knew you only had so much time. How long was it going to? The planning to go into an open bag was crazy. And then all of a sudden, 3, 2, 1, whoosh, the bag was down. The robot was out. It was taken apart, put back together. Whoosh, the bag was back up, and everybody would go, and then we could spend a couple more days waiting for our next open bag. Now with no bag time and no, crate time, it just doesn't end. And because it
Yep.
doesn't end, competitive teams are not going to end. And competitive teams are going to, they go to the first tournament because there's no restrictions on changes. They come to the next tournament with a new robot because they have the resources. And I think it's hard. Now, as a teacher, we this last 2 years have been working more with the mental health of our kids. We have very specifically have made some mandatory shutdown days where we just say no one can be in the building. This is a shutdown day. There are also we fought to keep Sundays sacred for quite some time until obviously we're like 3 weeks, 2 weeks before the competition. Then Sundays we're still open for people to come in. But we tell the kids they have to take it's a mandatory, they have to take at least a day off during the week. We don't police it because they want to be here, but we highly encourage it. But I see it becoming a bigger problem because I think our kids and mental health is becoming a bigger discussion. And I think that FIRST might someday have some trouble with this because teams are burning out, mentors are burning out, kids are burning out. I read the article on Chief, and that person quit FIRST. That's rough. That's rough. But what my 3 children lived FIRST their whole lives, and 2 of them don't want anything to do with it right now because it was their life for so many years. I'm blessed. My son came back. My youngest came back this year to help me drive coach. He does a pretty good job, doesn't he, Nick?
Yeah, Cody's awesome.
Yeah, he was my driver in 2018, and so sometimes my biggest frustration in the weekend is him telling me what to do. It's like, oh my God. But he's been a great help, and I think that this crunch thing, it's real. And I see kids falling apart. I see kids, and I'm like, you got to take some time off. And the mentors are just as bad. So some of the things I thought about that might help, quality over quantity. If you are going to have if your programmers are going to have the robot for 4 hours, they shouldn't be writing code during those 4 hours. It should all be testing. The writing of the code happens before you get the robot, and then you start testing what you've written to see whether or not it needs fixing. But if you're just sitting there with a blank, page, then all your mechanical people are waiting for the robot to come back, and the coding people are just sitting there going, So there's quality. Are they getting the kind of time they need? When I was talking earlier about open bag, we planned out very specifically what we had to do in our 2 hours. People don't do that now. They know it's open time.
Right.
You will take whatever time you're given, and then you crunch at the end because it's not done. So we were trying to be really purposeful this year with our timing, with what we do. I tell kids, if you've got nothing to do and it's not planned out, go. Another comment in that article was about students leading teams. And, I'm very passionate about how FIRST was designed originally because it was about mentorship. And I think it's really important that kids can see these mentors as role models and be inspired by them. And there's nothing less frustrating and absolutely not inspiring is a robot that maybe was built by a bunch of kids and they learned a lot, but it doesn't move on the field. Or how about the student that is the drive coach that makes the wrong decision and the whole team is mad at them? That's the reason I'm on the field is because even if my drivers make a mistake, I walk off the field and it was my decision, not that they made a mistake. That way people can be mad at me and not at these kids because it's a horrific thing. And how much money is going into this from your sponsors? It's just such a big picture that I think it's important that we put all of this in balance, and it needs to be balanced. And I think that's the whole thing about this crunch is there needs to be balance in all of our teams.
Yeah, I agree. And thank you for going in depth, Kyle. I appreciate, seeing the view site from, another pretty well-experienced team in Michigan and whatnot. 33 tries to exemplify a lot of what you said. And obviously there's some work for us to do on that standpoint, but, we're actively planning on trying to move to, focus on, like things that you said, getting those students to take a day off a week and stuff like that, and making sure that, it's a positive experience for all. And one thing that, I do want to just highlight, if you're a mentor or a person that's in charge, say you're a team captain, take this opportunity, reach out to your team, making sure that everybody is felt in a specific scenario and where they're currently at, and use this as an opportunity to build on, certain ways that you might run your team and how you can help them to prevent, this getting to a certain standpoint. But Tyler, you mentioned that you wanted to come in, pop in and mention something. So we'll give you the floor.
Yeah, something that I want to bring in, this really resonates with me a lot, because here on Fun, this is our crunch time right now, where for me, I do put in 70, 80 hours a week. I mean, as a sole proprietor and an entrepreneur in these things, it is very difficult to try to set a standards. And I have a wife and a kid, another one on the way, and things like that, trying to figure out where can I set aside time. And we have 60 correspondents here on Fun in 8 countries. So like, for me, I'm getting messages and pings all the time at all hours of the day and things like that. And Nick and Connor, this, that I try to put it very plainly out there. Like, I set a priority queue for things, and there are things that I will do my best to get back to you. But if I don't get back to you for a little while, let me know, because I need to kind of set where my own downtime is, how I spend time with my family, how I go about doing that process. And that is so true in first teams. Like when I used to run first teams, we worked way too many hours than what we should have, looking back at things like that. And it definitely applies in the workplace as well too, that you really have to figure out ways to try to manage. Now, for me and Fun, that is us growing and getting to a point where I can start to delegate out more, as we're starting to. We have, for those who don't know, Samantha does a lot of our editing for our videos now as we come through, and trying to figure out ways that we can optimize as well too is very important, that because it will happen to burnout. That's no different than in the workplace industry versus what it is here, or as an entrepreneur like me, of trying to say, hey, we can only do so much. And that's why for a lot of you watching Fun, you're going to start to see a little bit of a shift in regards to how we approach content as well too, is that we still make a lot of content pieces, more than what we should, honestly, for things. And figuring out ways to optimize that quality or quantity sometimes while still balancing it out is very important as well. So I just want to provide that perspective from our perspective here at Fun, and my perspective as an entrepreneur as well.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that insight, Tyler. Connor, go ahead.
Yeah. So now that really diving into this and really just kind of reading all about what crunch culture is, it really just kind of made me take a step back and think about how I've kind of conducted myself over the last few years as well. Because while maybe my students haven't been putting in as much time as putting in all this bunch of time, but I see myself putting in so much time as well. And a lot of that is, outside of meetings, just trying to make sure that I'm prepared to be able to teach my students CAD, so that I understand what's going on, so that they can also, benefit from it as well. But then I look at it as what am I doing outside of robotics? And it's either work, sleep, or more robotics. And well, that's all been fun and games, because a majority of my friends are mentor or other teams, or mentor a team with me, or volunteer. It's just it seems like all sunshine and rainbows, because it's that's what I do all the time. But I come to think about it, when I was a freshman in 2013, I had to make a tough choice between joining the robotics team or joining ski team, and I chose the robotics team. And more I think about it, I own a pair of skis and boots, and I got them all sharpened and waxed years ago, and I haven't gone skiing in 5 years.
Take some time and go skiing.
I need to take some time. And we take Sundays off too. We had one planned Sunday meeting, and that was the first Sunday right after kickoff, just to kind of get a jump start on the season. And I was like, you know what? This is the year I'm going to go skiing. This is the year I'm going to do it. And then where do I find myself? Sitting right here in this chair in Onshape, looking at things, trying to see, all right, how can I help my students come the next meeting? Or, if they're going to ping me, go, hey, can you review something? Sure. Let's do it. I think I need to take a little bit of a mental break sometimes myself.
If I may, one other thing that we did this last 2 years, we've been trying to be very purposeful about, is we do something called restorative circles. And students, it's a new thing in education. You have everybody sit in a circle, because then there's no person in charge. you ask some questions. Like we did one a couple weeks before the tournament, and one of the questions was, what's going well for you during the season? And the students they all answer them. You go right around. Whoever wants to answer first does, and then they get to choose which way around the circle it goes. And then another question I might ask is, what is something we need to do to improve on? And again, you'd be amazed at what your kids will tell you just in that open round circle discussion. And it's really super important. So then their voices are heard, and then you find out what's the pace or what's the pulse of your kids and what's the pulse of the team. My kids get along exceptionally well. Every now and then we got a few crazy ones, but they enjoy the stands. And I mean, Nick, you saw it this weekend, and you guys saw it last year at Worlds. We cheered you guys.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. Honestly, like that was one of the things that we took back from Houston, and just like seeing the videos of like Luke and Charlie and all those kids right in front and cheering on us as we're in the finals of our communities after you guys, like arguably at a devastating loss. I mean, like, it was unfortunate to see, but what was really cool was to see your kids like within an hour completely turn around and go, okay, well, we're out. Let's cheer for one of our friends that we're close with in Michigan. And that was really cool to see. So it's just a testament to, the way that you guys run Rush and the culture that you guys have over there as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I just think it's important that the kids have a voice, and that's what you get in these restorative circles, because they get a chance to tell me what I need to work on in order to make this experience better for them. But I do, and Tyler mentioned it earlier, it's about quality, not quantity. And so if teams can somehow, you can't plan in the middle of the season. There's just no time. But take the time before the season starts to plan out, how are you going to address some of these things? And if you have a tournament in 3 weeks, plan it out now. What are you going to do? Take some quality time now to think it through, your replacement, your spare parts and all of those things, so that when it comes right down to it, you're not stressed out and freaking out the night before you go. We said we were going to have the truck packed by 9 p.m. For the last tournament, and my husband didn't get home till after midnight, and I was like, what were you doing? And it's the first week, and does everything fit in the trailer is the question, and I'm like, why didn't you try this earlier?
Right.
Shove all this stuff in and say, how long is it going to take us? But the night before a tournament is not the time to find out what doesn't fit. It's
For
just
sure.
that simple.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kyle. Well, before we go ahead and wrap up tonight, we're going to go ahead and bring Tyler back on to draw for our giveaway from CTR Electronics.
Yeah, once again, this is for the Phoenix Pro giveaway on there. By the way, CTR, awesome place. If you haven't checked out their hardware ecosystem, it's become synonymous with high performance, not only within the FRC world, but among the growing list of industry partners who understand why the chicken really crossed the road. We have to get that pun in there. So let's go ahead and draw for that. That's going to go to Jason Go, or Jason Gu, G-U-O. Congratulations. Make sure you go to firstupdatesnow.com/winner in order to fill that out. And thanks again to CTR Electronics and FRC 1720 for the awesome giveaways today.
Yep, awesome. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to FRC Roundup. Special thanks to all those who clicked that follow button or stepped up to help fund with a YouTube join subscription or donation. Your support really helps us continue to make great content. And don't forget, you can watch FRC Roundup archived at youtube.com/first updates now, and watch live Mondays after FRC recap. That doesn't happen anymore, but it'll be Mondays live during the competition season. And we'll move to the monthly when we head to the off season. Thank you to Kyle, our guest, for coming on. And on behalf of our producer, Tyler Olds, my co-host, Connor, and all fun correspondents, I'm Nick Jr., and thanks for watching. Good luck to all teams in this coming week in week 2 of competition. And big thanks to our moderators in chat and those who have pledged their support to fund by clicking the join button to become a fund member or supporter. See you next time, same day, where we take a look at what's going on with First Robotics on FRC Roundup. Thanks, everyone.
This video on fun is brought to you by viewers like you, and also in partnership with the following. Discover how Kettering University students engineered their success with Kettering's amazing co-op employment programs, where students earn great pay and gain valuable experience. Those accepted into Kettering University can apply for a robotics scholarship, providing up to an additional $5,000 a year in tuition assistance. Head on over to kettering.edu/first to learn more and apply.